damage report?
2 dead and 3 wounded, sir.
Escapes?
The Krites. All 8 of them.
Morning, Harv.
Morning, Frau. What's happening?
Well, this here says that John Travolta used to be a waitress in Fort Myers, Florida.
What's happening here, Sal?
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Bears Presents The Bear Cave of Terror. I'm your hairy, heavy homo and horror fan host, Steve Morey. Each week, here in the Bear Cave, I invite a horror-loving guest who brings with them one of their favorite scary movies. It can be classic, gory, trashy, obscure, well-known, a ripoff of Gremlins, or something still banned in Britain. In other words, a thrilling work of cinematic terror that we think you might enjoy. In each episode, we'll dig into the flesh and bone of the film, highlighting our favorite scary moments, as well as stories and details from beyond the screen. All while our guest imparts their deep and possibly concerning love for this week's frightful vision unto you, our dear listener. And with me again in the Bear Cave is Mr. Mike Lovins. Welcome back, Mike.
Hello. So we're talking about Munchies today?
Yes, Munchies. Everybody's favorite scary movie, Munchies.
That's my favorite Gremlins ripoff.
Well, you know what? It's so funny, but like there are several that kind of fall into that category. But this one, interestingly enough, maybe it might not be a ripoff of Gremlins, except through the perception of time and when it was released. So, but speaking of, what possible Gremlins ripoff movie are we talking about today?
We're talking about Critters. Yeah. Critters 1.
Critters 1 from
It was a
1986. Yes, it was a franchise. This one movie, which is relatively low budget too. I think they made it for like $2 million. Went on to spawn 4 sequels and a TV series.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard to believe, but
diminishing returns with each incarnation. So we're at the right one.
Yes. The first one and the best one, pretty arguably, I would say. And this was actually, it came out in 1986. It was directed by Stephen Herek. And this was actually his first film that he had directed. He had worked on previous films to this as a screen editor and an assistant. So this was his first. He was like a young buck in his mid-20s, and they gave him this movie over at New Line. We're like, hey, go to it. Probably because he's affordable. Could keep it within the $2 million budget. But it's fun. It's notable for creature effects by the Chiodo Brothers. We're famous for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Team America, a bunch of, ton of movies. They did Troll. They did Ernest Scared Stupid. They've done so much. The Land of the Lost TV series, the later one. But yeah, so it's fun. For those of you who haven't seen this movie, what's kind of like a basic plot summary of this?
Well, it's basically these little furry fuzzball aliens that eat everything. So bears.
Pocket cubbies.
Right, exactly. Escape an alien prison colony and land on Earth and are hell-bent on eating everything in their path, everything and everyone. We get some killer shape-shifting bounty hunters that come down and join the family of the house where the critters are invading to rid them of their infestation.
Yes. And interestingly enough, even the bounty hunters themselves probably cause as much property damage and mayhem as the critters themselves.
If not more.
Throughout
the entire town.
Yeah, because the critters are kind of like, they've been pretty much staying around the area of this farm.
Right.
Whereas the bounty hunters, like, they're in the town, they're shooting up the church, they're ruining somebody's bowling night. It's crazy.
The bounty hunters are doing more damage to the town, and they're just killing livestock, really. And boyfriends.
Livestock and boyfriends. Boyfriends played by a young Billy Zane is the sort of the boyfriend in this movie, because he meets a pretty early end, I would say. But the cast in this is pretty is pretty interesting. It's got a well-seasoned cast. In fact, the person who plays the mother is Dee Wallace.
Which honestly, I think she's the reason why I watched this movie as a kid in the first place. Because it wasn't that long after, well, 4 years, but as a kid, it wasn't that, from E.T. to this, looking back now, it doesn't seem like it was that far removed, Yeah, she's probably the reason I watched it in the first place. But then it's just one of those weird. So I have a brother who is 9 years younger than me. And at some point, I think when he was 4 or 5 even, he got a hold of this movie. And then he loved it too. So in my house, Critters was an entire family favorite. Like, he was born in 85 and before 1990 had fallen in love with this movie. So we just loved this movie in our house.
As far as horror movies go, and this is a horror movie, but it's also pretty lighthearted.
Yeah.
There's a lot of humor in it. And there's the touch of sci-fi because, of course, the critters are aliens. They steal a spaceship, and the bounty hunters are from outer space and don't understand the ways of humanity other than what they've watched on MTV.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the goriest, grossest part of the movie doesn't even involve the critters. It's the transformation scene of the bounty hunter.
True. Yeah. I mean, even the death of boyfriend, the cattle corpse that the father and son kind of come across early in the movie. It's implied. It's definitely gory in a way, but yeah, that transformation sequence. I mean, that I remember so vividly from like the first time I saw this movie, maybe when I was 10 years old, and that was like that stuck in my mind so clearly. So it was Dee Wallace starring that kind of drew you to this movie, but like, what else? What grabbed you and said like, hey, I have to see this movie?
This was also a few years past Return of the Jedi. I was very then engulfed in sci-fi. I loved Star Wars and E.T. so much. By then, I think I had seen Close Encounters because my mom loved that movie. So sci-fi was just a huge thing for me. And I was starting to get kind of into horror as well. And so this combination of all of that going on in this movie, and like you said, comedy too. I mean, that's what I think made it so like acceptable for my little brother to watch it too, is they were funny, like for being these like vicious little killers, they were hilarious.
And it's true. And interestingly that this came out from New Line Cinema, the birthplace, if you will, of Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger, who became known, from the later sequels for being really funny, tons of one-liners. So this is like kind of par for the course for that studio, except that I think this is maybe a little bit less sadistic than a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Slightly.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these critters, unlike other sort of like sci-fi horror monster movies, these critters actually have dialogue. They talk and they have subtitles, and they're,
subtitles.
They can fly a spaceship, so they're intelligent, they're funny, they they try to eat things that shouldn't be eaten,
right?
and have some consequences because of it. And they're just fun to watch, to see how they're going to tackle whatever kind of person or creature is coming after them, and how they're going to scare them and eat them. But yeah, I mean, like, they're smart. They destroy the vehicles at one point so that they can't get away. Like, the family tries to get away and escape from the farmhouse, and they can't, so they're kind of stuck inside. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really fun things to love about the critters, and of course the design. I mean, these are puppets, so they're puppets with like audio animatronics for the face and for the mouth, so they can snarl and blink and look around. They've got those bright red eyes
with some fun eye rolling movements. And
oh yeah, when one of them eats an M80 by mistake, he's like, whoa. Falls over, and you're like, oh,
it's good shit.
It's cute. That's the one that just totally ate Billy Zane, but it's really cute. Yeah. But it's fun, and there's the design on these things again from the Chiodo Brothers, from their studio. They had a lot of fun making these puppets, and they had 3 different sizes. They had the 13-inch ones that are the little puppets with the fully animatronic features. They had a larger one that was about 26 inches tall. Again, puppet, audio animatronic features that would blink and move and snarl and whatever. But then they also had a really big one that was like 4 feet tall. that was less loved by the production crew. The director didn't like it. The Chiodo Brothers thought it was stupid. And this is the giant critter.
Yeah.
Because the more they eat, the bigger they get. That was not their idea. They did not want to do it. But apparently the higher ups at New Line were like, look, we want a big giant critter. Give us a big giant critter. And they're like,
Which
all
I
right.
remember thinking it was hilarious. Like I thought it was great.
I think maybe that might have been for them, because I know that they knew that they were on the line of making, a horror and a comedy. But I think maybe in their minds were like, oh, this is going to put it way into the comedy section. And even the gentleman, the actor who played the father, Billy Greenbush,
Yeah.
he commented at one point to Mark Shapiro from Fangoria magazine. He was being interviewed by him, and he said, when I first read the script, I was thinking, this movie's kind of for kids. And he was the only one who said that at first. And, after making it, I'm like, well, this is definitely, I think it is definitely more geared towards younger audiences, because you have the progression of the scary, cute creatures into a giant,
which
scary,
I
cute
feel
creature.
like they doubled down on that in the sequel.
Yeah.
In a little town with Easter egg hunts and stuff like that. So they either embraced it or accepted it. One or the other.
And that's kind of cool. You don't have a lot of pure, at least at this time, you don't have a lot of purely kid-oriented horror movies. And this kind of toes the line, because it would be more for, an older crowd, I think, to watch. But it has, like you said, it has an appeal to kids because it's fun. And you've got one of the heroes is a kid. He's 10, 11 years old. Scott Grimes, the actor who you might remember from The Orville and a couple other things. He's also a singer.
So just thinking back on me trying to figure out who young little Mikey Lovins was back then, I can look back now and I swear, I think because he's only a few years older than I am. So there's no creep factor here when you're talking about me watching it at the time that it was coming out. I was a little kid, but I kind of had a little crush on this redheaded freckled kid. And fast forward to the Orville, and now he's redheaded and a beard. The crush is really, really confirmed.
The crush is real.
It was real. But it is kind of funny, just thinking about this movie and the people that are in it and what an impact it kind of made on me. Because Dee Wallace was really, at the time, the only person in the movie that I already knew who she was because of how much I loved E.T. But now, as I grew up and people from this movie would show up in other things, it was like when I saw Scott Grimes and other things, I'm like, oh my God, I love that kid from Critters. I'm going to watch this now. When I first saw Ethan Phillips on Voyager, even under all that makeup, I'm like, oh my God, what was his name? Neelix? I love this character now, because I remember him being in Critters. And so literally that movie had that much of an impact on me. Where I got it wrong, though, is that because I didn't really know their names as a kid, you just grew up recognizing faces. I thought that Terrence Mann, who played the main bounty hunter, the brooding one, I thought he was Tim Curry. Every time I would see Tim Curry on things, I thought that was the guy from Critters.
And I do see it. I absolutely see he does have a very similar face, especially the lower half of his face, the jaw and the mouth and everything, is very Tim Curry-ish. And at this time, in the mid-'80s, absolutely, they share a lot of, similarities.
Yeah.
So I could totally get that. But then that's the thing, too. Dee Wallace, I love how you are saying, hey, Dee Wallace, I recognize her from E.T., and I bet a lot of horror viewers today might have probably first recognized Dee Wallace from The Howling. And interestingly enough, when I was reading some of the interviews with Miss Wallace around the time of this movie, she's like, yeah, I know that now people might be, and this was in 1986, people might now be connecting me I'm playing another mother with another alien or monster and blah blah blah, and Just like, well, I guess so. I mean, your kid is involved with an alien in ET. Your kid's involved with little monster critters from Critters. But there's no werewolves, so I guess she's
No werewolves. Wasn't she also in Cujo? Was she in Cujo?
Yes, she also played the mother in Cujo.
Yeah.
So yeah, poor Dee Wallace playing somebody's mom who's always being assaulted by monsters of some sort.
Yeah.
Because I saw Critters about the same time as well. Like, I thought the same thing. It's like, hey, that's the mom from E.T. But yeah, I think a lot more adults would probably be remembering her from other things like Cujo, like The Howling. And then seeing like, oh, okay, well now she's doing more family friendly stuff. If you can consider Critters family friendly.
E.T. never bit anybody's fingers off.
No, no, he did not.
Or he just didn't get the chance to.
True. And but speaking of E.T., I mean, we have another E.T. connection in this movie, and that is a scene where the critters have broken into the house and are just ransacking all sorts of the rooms, and one of them has found an E.T. stuffed animal, and I had that same one, and I'm sure a lot of kids at the time also had that same sort of like leather-ish.
It was that like pleather kind of shiny kind of
with the red belly and the
and there's a Star Wars connection in here too, which I'm always quick to point one of those out when I get the chance, but their cat's name was Chewie.
Yes, their cat's name was Chewie as well. And I'm guessing it wasn't Chuy Chewie. I mean, this is Kansas, so I'm guessing he was a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny how they kind of threw those little Easter eggs in there because like someone's going to pick up on these little things.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about this movie too is, and we talked about this in when we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street 3, another New Line Cinema film, is that this movie also embraces the power of a hard rock ballad. It plays a major plot point actually in this film with the bounty hunters, and that is
Power of the Night. I think his character's name, like the fake rock star, was Johnny Steele or something like that.
Steele.
To bring my brother back into this again, he's this little kid, but hard rock was the music of my house, and so he referred to the movie as the Power of the Night Man movie.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was never Critters. It was, I want to watch the Power of the Night Man movie.
I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, you could make an argument that the star of this movie is Terrence Mann and his bounty hunter / Johnny Steele.
Right.
And it's such a good song too. It's catchy. It's catchy. It kind of has
that banger. I had the soundtrack on cassette when I was younger, but now that I've reinvested in vinyl, I'm not even going to tell you what I paid for that.
That's
one
awesome.
Song. The score's pretty good though too, actually.
Yeah.
The rest of it's a score.
I think for a $2 million movie, from a studio like New Line, which, hadn't been around for very long to kind of come out with this, I think that it turned out really well.
Yeah.
For, a $2 million budget, for, making the changes and sacrifices that they had to make. They were able to do the whole thing in 5 weeks. Did a really good job with it. Interestingly enough, Roger Ebert, when he reviewed this, he really liked the movie.
Which I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm shocked to hear that. But I'm also glad though too that somebody of like his status can see through like budget limitations and stuff like that and see what they were trying to accomplish and what they did accomplish for what they had.
Yeah. I mean, they threw a lot in this movie. I mean, there's a big sci-fi element that involved, things flying around in space, a giant asteroid, a couple weird looking aliens, even the bounty hunters without their faces.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we haven't even talked about like the way this movie opens up and the weird looking hovercraft alien thing that was
was running the prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very strange. Like the critters themselves, or the Krite as they're called, they're captured and being brought into the facility. They basically break out after a couple of them have been exterminated,
right,
disposed of
because they couldn't feed them enough.
They break out and they steal one of the fastest ships that they have, and so the warden calls in the two bounty hunters who at this point just have like these glowing green featureless faces,
Yeah.
which as a
Which is
kid,
really cool design.
it's cool, but I was also kind of freaked out as a kid too because they look weird and menacing, even though there's nothing on their faces.
Do you know what's funny though? Is I remember as a kid thinking they kind of reminded me, I can't remember specifically which character, but they kind of reminded me of like something out of G.I. Joe. Like, I don't know, there were those Bat Troopers, or even if it was Destro, I don't know, but just there was something about the look of their face that just, I always kind of made the connection that they reminded me of something in G.I. Joe.
Interesting. I mean, is it Zoltan who has the, he's the one who gets all the disguises, but he actually does have a face underneath that.
Yeah. He had the color changing
repeat
body that you could put in the sun and it would change colors.
Yeah. he would turn blue, I think it was. Was it blue? Yeah.
I think so.
But Destro also, he had sort of like, it was like a metal face that had some features, but
or even Cobra Commander. I mean, he was just a mirrored face. But anyway, all that said, they didn't really freak me out. To me, they just looked kind of cool and like I could see them in G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Until their face melted off. They literally had an 80s metal song melt their face off.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly okay. So that's the perfect connection. So Power of the Night here is such a strong ballad, such a strong, like so much rock. Right. That it causes this alien whose face to absolutely melt. And that is a cool effect. But yeah, I mean, like looking as a kid, it's such a crazy creature effect to see. Because like the skin just melts around and the skull sort of forms, and then you see everything in reverse, like the muscles and the eyeballs and everything just sort of comes on. And then I guess he grows the hair afterwards. But
I think it's funny that the other bounty hunter, I thought it was cool how he kept changing throughout the movie and added another bit of humor to it when he starts looking like people in the town and people are like, Charlie? Reverend? I'm starting to sound like my grandma now. Mikey?
But yeah. Oh, no, and that I thought was also really interesting too, because the first, he doesn't change until after they land. And the first person that they encounter is unfortunately the dead body of Ethan Phillips' deputy. And so when he transforms, his face is all torn up. Like there's these huge gashes. He looks dead. He looks zombified. And, it's kind of gross, and people are kind of grossed out about that until he goes ahead and turns into the Reverend, and then they're terrified for other reasons.
Right. But there was a good example of just some more of the special effects, because right before he turns into the Reverend, like there's even like a gash on the side of his neck that you just see like pulsing and oozing blood and all that stuff as his face starts pulsating to change, which... The one thing, I can even remember this as a kid, how like it took forever, it seemed like, for Bounty Hunter number 1 to change into Johnny Steele, but Bounty Hunter number 2 just keeps like constantly changing, and it seems like it's just like that.
Oh yeah, and everybody's freaked out. They're
right.
Of course they pan away, they cut away to like people.
Just imagine all those people are seeing actually it melt away,
then reform. Wow. Oh yeah. And he eventually picks the face of the town idiot, the village idiot, who also happens to be sort of like the I guess the farm hand for the family's farm.
He's like the town drunk.
Yeah, he's like everything. He's the alien conspiracist. He's like, I can hear them in my fillings, all of that. In his funny little interaction with Lynn Shay, of course, because this is a New Line movie.
Right.
Her husband at the time is, the head of the studio. She gets to play a really fun, like secretary / dispatcher character. And, she's perfectly Lynn Shay in this. I love her and everything. But she gets some good zingers in there, especially interacting with Charlie, who kind of has a little bit of the hots for her. Although
and Joe,
Ethan
so
Phillips,
is Joe, the deputy.
Joe, the deputy, is really trying to date her, and she's like, "No, I got to wash my hair." And the joke later on is that when the townspeople show up to file their complaints at the police office at the police station, She's got her hair in curlers. She has been doing her hair. Her hair has been washed, so she wasn't lying to get out of the date. But this was definitely just a fun, goofy, ride of a movie.
And I'll say too, like, it stands on its own so well that, like, if you really just want to throw on a fun sci-fi / horror adventure comedy, like, there's a lot to enjoy here, and you never have to watch another one of them. But I will say, because of how much I loved the first one, and because Scott Grimes does come back for the sequel, part 2, I actually really did enjoy the second one. The third one, we get our first appearance of a young Leonardo DiCaprio.
Crazy. Yes.
But it's not a good movie. And again, diminishing returns as the franchise progresses. But
I think there was a reason why the fourth movie was made in 92, and there was nothing new that came out until the fifth one in 2019.
Yeah.
So, and that was also the year the TV series. It was I think
I think
Shudder. Yeah.
And I think the movie was meant to be kind of a tie-in.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there'll always be that first one.
Right.
With its cool effects and a great introduction to these little monstrous eating machines.
Do you think now a complete remake, a reboot of this would work? Like, it would be so CGI heavy, but like, I don't know if it would capture the same heart.
I don't think so either. I think the fact that this was a product of the 80s, that it came about in an era, and like Ebert said, it kind of looks like a ripoff of Terminator and Gremlins together. Although, it was written back in 1980. So Dominic Muir was the original screenwriter on this. He came out with the script in 1980 and kind of shelved it because it was a little too pricey to make at the time. But he and the director Stephen Herek had come together and had to rewrite the script back around 1985 when they were selling it before they were able to make the movie, because it was too close to Terminator and Gremlins together. Even though it kind of came out after that, there was this feeling that you could make movies that were on the Gremlins theme or on the Terminator theme, and they would do relatively well. And they worked well because I think people were hungry for that kind of stuff. I don't know if people are today. They've been trying to do a remake of Gremlins for a really long time. There is that cartoon series, that CGI cartoon series. I believe it's on HBO Max, maybe.
Part 3 has been greenlit.
It has.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it might do well, but I think the fact that it's been since 1989?
I think 89.
Since Gremlins 2?
Maybe 90, but
maybe 90. Yeah. I mean, it's been 30 years. 30 plus years, almost 40 years since the last Gremlins movie. And so it kind of just goes to show you that, like, what was being made in the 80s, especially mid to late 80s, you can't really recapture that. And maybe it just might be the zeitgeist that was there that isn't there now. But I think that it's definitely a product of the 80s, and there's a reason why it just kind of petered out.
I think if they were to redo it now, they'd want to take it into a darker place and make it more violent and stuff like that. And which I'll admit, there's part of me that wants to see what that's like. But and this is where, like, I think they're not even doing this, so I don't know why I'm worrying about it. But it's like it's the kind of thing where it's like, you just have to remember that if they were to do something like this, even if you don't like it, you've got the original. It doesn't change that. So I guess there's that part of me that kind of wants to see it happen, but like, I'd be the one person and I'd watch it once. And so apparently I'm guessing that that's not enough for them to spend however many millions of dollars it takes to make a movie like that.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, you could go through, make a truly dark, violent, gory take on this very
Yeah.
easily, because the critters themselves, I mean, their design, yeah, you kind of look at it from one way. Oh, they're kind of cute, but they're also kind of horrifying because
Yeah.
they're all teeth. They shoot out these, paralyzing spikes that just make their victims literally just fall. Like they can barely move until somebody removes the spike from them. And they just eat, they just consume, and strip the flesh of bones. There is a scene, I think, in the second one where they didn't do it in the first one, but they can combine into a giant, basically ball that just eats.
Yeah.
And there's this it's kind of funny, but where they roll over somebody in that ball form, and as they roll over, what's left is like a twitching skeleton with nothing on the bones anymore.
Which
and
is so
it's
cartoony.
Funny. It is. It's cartoony and it's funny, but it's also horrifying in the same way if they were to present it that way. If it wasn't just sort of like oh my gosh, here comes the funny eating ball, and it ate that guy, It could be pretty horrifying, because if you look at and compare like how they had the 1958 The Blob and the 1988 version of The Blob, same kind of concept, but the one in the 50s is kind of goofy. The one in the 80s is not. It is horrifying and disgusting and disturbing. And I could see the same thing happening with the critters. You could have these kind of goofy, fun characters. And yes, they eat people, and okay, that's terrible. And they bite people alive. Okay. But you could make that very horrifying very easily.
And here's where I feel like this movie, too, like, it really holds back, too, if you think about it. Because for the most part, the cast is this family with some outliers. But other than Joe the deputy and Billy Zane's boyfriend character, I don't think anybody else in the principal cast dies. The dad gets pretty eaten up but even those wounds apparently are superficial, because we don't, we see a bloody spot on his shoulder and on his leg and stuff, but everybody else gets away near a scratch.
Yeah, some like a few nips here and there. Like,
yeah.
They're not stripped, like those legs and the shoulder that's not stripped clean. Like they're able to wrap them up and they're okay. They limp a little, but they're fine. But yeah, I mean, that it could have gotten a lot darker very, very easily. And I think because they had an eye on being able to keep it lighthearted as much as it is scary, as much as it does have like some pretty scary moments. There's a moment, I think, in the basement or in the cellar where the father goes down and is like looking for the thing that's making the noise, and the flashlight glints over the eyes, and he still goes over there, and the thing jumps out. Like, that is still a jump scare that works. That's a jump scare that works, because it is scary. This little black creature that just his old teeth. Even though he kind of gets away pretty much intact.
Yeah, I mean, like, made now, the dad would have died.
Oh yeah,
they would have had him die, and also to play also for like the drama of it and the family having to also deal with that now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they almost did, because he was trying to send them away, and then he got spiked and passed out, and they're like, "We're not leaving you behind, you idiot!" And pull him up the stairs. Which I'm like, that's good. And it's Dee Wallace who's doing that. She's not just sitting around screaming like she did for the first half of the movie. She's like, I'm going to pull my husband out. Like, what am I going to do? Leave him behind? Crazy. And also ends up walking around with the shotgun through the rest of the movie, too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, she's a badass. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. She was scared of the cat a little bit earlier, or, the critter his eyes looking through the window. Yeah, she pulled together pretty easily afterwards. But yeah, I thought this is a good movie, and this is very much a 1980s timepiece. There is a bit of it that feels a little bit like an episode of Amazing Stories, a little.
Okay.
Which, the 1980s version of Spielberg's Amazing Stories. And I think that it's kind of interesting that it has a little bit of a Spielberg quality to it. Not the quality of the film, but like
but there's a version of this movie I could see him making.
Yeah. Yes. Because it has an eye.
I guess it was called E.T., but
there you go. It was E.T., but E.T. didn't eat people. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is that sort of like quality where there's something family friendly about this, but also hey, let's touch on let's touch on horror and death, kids.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like this is also out there. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I could absolutely recommend this to like my niece and nephew who are
Sure.
7 and 3. Like, I don't
Sure.
think it'd be a problem for them to watch something like this. It's a fun movie. I think they'd be probably more confused by the fact that why nobody has a cell phone.
That was one of the things I was thinking about while I was doing a rewatch, thinking about like if they were to make this movie now, like the power going out and there not being, and the phones being cut off and stuff like that doesn't hit the same with cell phones. So they would have to throw in one of those convenient things that makes it that they don't have their phone. You know, there's always like maybe it was left in the car and they go out to the car and the critters are in there so they can't get into it. You know, they'd have to do something to keep people from getting to their phone.
Or possibly the spaceship has a disruption field that
Right.
you know,
Which
takes out
they
cell
kind of did
towers.
that a little bit with the TV kind of flickering and the radio
Yeah.
going off a little bit. So that could have worked.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is definitely one of those things where, and I want to say, I think Ebert did touch on this a little bit, which I thought was really funny in his review back in '86. He mentioned this sort of idea, this trope that sci-fi, that aliens are much more technologically advanced than we are and have all this intelligence. Well, maybe they're not all that smart. They just happen to have spaceships and faster than light travel, because these bounty hunters are not smart. They are
They're
not
really
good at
not.
tracking the krites. They are not good at being undercover. Like the whole point for them to be able to change their face is that they can blend in easily. They can't blend in for crap. These guys
Right.
suck at it. You know, they're worse than Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator. He's like, give me your clothes, or, you know, whatever. And plus the one guy is Johnny Steele. So of course he's going to get recognized a few times by people are like, you're that singer.
I just love like one of their first interactions with people is like crashing into the church and just walking in. We're here for the krites. You know, it's just like,
And they're like, what are you talking about? We have no idea what you're talking about.
and I just love that little black lady behind the organ. I just kept waiting for her to be like, what the hell?
What is up with you, idiots? Oh my God. And even the sheriff. So the sheriff, played by Emmett Walsh.
Yeah.
Perfect character actor, usually plays a dumb cop or whatever and everything. Even he was just sort of like, the hell is he was the black lady saying, what the hell is going on around here? Like that was his entire shtick the whole movie. He didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to deal with it. He was just like, I don't know what's going on.
One of the few people that come back for at least one of the sequels.
Yeah, at least maybe the second one. I think the second one.
I think it was.
Yeah, I think there were a few returning cast members, but yeah, this one was fun, and of course, it had to have the perfect horror movie sequel setup. At the very end, as the credits are about to roll, what do we see? We see eggs.
Yeah.
The critters have left some eggs behind. It's not over, folks. But it's perfect.
Funny.
It's not over message.
I always thought it was, just kind of funny though how the movie wraps up with a bow with like the house being put back together. To this day, I'm always like, there's no way everything would be put back in the right place.
Yeah. Like they walk in and everything is still destroyed inside. Like,
yeah.
Wow, it's standing as a structure, but all of everything has been smashed.
Chewie made it into the mailbox though, so he was safe.
Chewie made it into the mailbox. He wasn't reformed within part of the mailbox, which would have been probably more likely to happen. Like he's been
part
fused.
of him's in the mailbox, the other part's in the attic.
In the attic, it's like he is the fridge now. Like it's just, oh my God. But yeah, I that I think kind of lends towards more of the family friendly aspect of it. It's like this family, one, they all make it out alive, except for the boyfriend, who I guess they couldn't put him back together. Yeah.
Yeah, is he still in the?
He's still up in the barn. His corpse is still up in the barn. But he was a rich New Yorker, so I guess. And he had that rat tail.
Yeah. I just hope
he
they
was
salvage that Porsche.
But yeah, I mean, the family makes it out all in one piece, and now the house is okay. So like everything is good. Even the cat is fine. Like that is something that would happen in a more kid-friendly and a more family-friendly movie than, I would say a more horror outcome kind of situation where they're all just sort of lying in the rubble of their house, like crying, bleeding out. Like that would be basically like, oh, we've just experienced horrible trauma. The end.
This is the only way I think I would actually accept a remake. You ready?
Okay.
In the vein of Freddy versus Jason, it's Critters versus Piranha. All you can eat. CVP. Yeah.
They come across a resort, and then it's like feeding frenzy for everybody. There's enough for all of us, folks.
Exactly.
I could see that. A Critters versus Piranha. Well, I think this has been a lot of fun because, I mean, this movie is just, it's great. It has, again, special effects or creature effects royalty with the Chiodo Brothers doing these critters. I think doing a great job with the design. But yeah, I mean, this is a fun one. Fun cast.
Yeah.
Goofy outcomes. A lot of humor. And I think they make magic with $2 million for this movie. So
it really
definitely
did.
worth it. Yeah. And maybe the second one might be worth watching as well. But
yeah, I mean,
you can stop
look,
there.
As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go to Hungry Heifer. So I'm going to go get me a burger. Hungry Heifer. And here's the thing. I haven't seen that sequel in years, probably decades. And that damn jingle for the restaurant in the sequel is still stuck in my head. Right? The power of cinema.
Well, thank you for bringing this movie to us to talk about, because I had a ton of fun talking about it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
You've just listened to another episode of the Bear Cave of Terror. And if you haven't seen Critters, or after listening to us are struck with an irresistible compulsion to watch it again, it is streaming free on Tubi, or for sale digitally or on physical media. And Mike, if listeners would like to get in touch, how would they do that?
Best way is through my podcast socials. So it's Real Game Movie Show. And so it's just at Real Game Movie Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky.
And pretty much the same for Bear Cave of Terror as well. You can follow us on Blue Sky or Instagram at Bear Cave of Terror, all one word, or send an email to bearcaveofterror@gmail.com. A list of sources will be available in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about Critters and what people were saying about it in 1986. So remember, the power of the night. Streets are calling. It's the power of the night. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Was it Jeff or wasn't it?
Well, he changed.
Changed?
They were wearing really funny clothes. Like they was from Los Angeles.
Okay, everybody, just calm down, huh?